They said war would never reach their town. They were wrong. Margaret was 53 when the sky first cracked open. She had spent most of her life believing danger belonged to younger people, soldiers, rebels, heroes, not women with tired knees and reading glasses, not people who measured time by medication schedules and quiet evenings. But the night the stars moved, everything changed. Thomas was 55, a retired mechanic with hands still strong, enough to fix anything except what was coming. He saw the lights first. Not planes, not meteors. Something alive, something watching. The invasion didn't begin with explosions. It began with silence. Every signal died. Phones, radios, power, even the insects stopped making noise. The world held its breath. And then the sky split apart like glass. Massive shapes descended, black, towering, impossible. Not ships in the way humans understood them. They twisted, pulsed as if they were grown, not built. Margaret remembered, gripping her kitchen counter as the first beam struck the ground miles away. No fire, no smoke, just absence. An entire neighborhood vanished in a blink. Thomas ran outside despite the fear clawing at his chest. He had seen engines fail, machines break, disasters unfold, but this wasn't something you could fix with tools. This was something that erased reality itself. People screamed. Cars crashed. The world became chaos, and somehow in the middle of it all, Margaret and Thomas found each other. Not because they were heroes, but because they were still alive. The aliens didn't look like anything from stories. No eyes, no faces, just tall, shifting forms of dark matter, like shadows that refused to stay still. Wherever they moved, the ground warped. Buildings bent. People disappeared. Not killed. Erased. Margaret watched her neighbor reach out for help, and then nothing. No blood, no body. Just empty space where a person used to exist. That was the moment she stopped thinking like an ordinary person. That was the moment survival became everything. Move, Thomas said, grabbing her arm. His voice wasn't loud, but it was steady. They ran. Not away from something they understood, but from something that didn't follow rules. Hours passed like seconds. The town collapsed around them. Streets twisted. The sky glowed with unnatural colors. They hid in an abandoned warehouse as the world outside died piece by piece. Margaret sat on the cold floor, shaking. "We're too old for this," she whispered. "We can't outrun them." Thomas didn't answer immediately. He looked at his hands. Hands that had built, repaired, survived decades of life. "We don't outrun them," he said quietly. "We outlast them." Days went by. Food ran out. Water became precious. The aliens didn't patrol like soldiers. They drifted, scanning, erasing anything they detected. They didn't need weapons. They were the weapon. Margaret learned quickly. Stay still when the air vibrates. Don't make noise when the light turns blue. Never look directly at them for too long, because somehow they could feel it. Thomas started noticing patterns. Not behavior, but rhythm. "They're not random," he said one night. "They're searching." "For what?" Margaret asked. He didn't have an answer, but he knew one thing. They hadn't come to destroy everything. They were choosing what to erase. That meant something. One evening, the warehouse walls began to hum, a low vibration that sank into their bones. Margaret froze. Thomas whispered, "Don't move." A shadow passed through the wall like it wasn't even there. The air grew heavy like gravity itself had increased. Margaret could feel it inside her head. Something probing, searching her thoughts. Memories flashed, her childhood, her family, every moment of her life laid bare. The alien was inside her mind. She wanted to scream, but she didn't. And somehow it passed. The presence faded. The weight lifted. She collapsed, gasping. "It saw everything," she whispered. "It saw all of me." Thomas helped her sit up. His face pale. "They're not just killing us," he said. "They're judging us." That realization changed everything. From that moment, survival wasn't just about hiding. It was about control. Control of fear. Control of thoughts. Control of what they were. Because whatever these beings were, they were looking for something in humanity and deciding who deserved to stay. Weeks passed. The world shrank to ruins and silence. Margaret and Thomas became something new. Not fighters. Not soldiers, but survivors shaped by something far worse than war. They learned to move unseen, to think less, to exist quietly, until the day everything went wrong. A group of younger survivors found them. Panicked, loud, desperate. "Help us!" They begged. We don't know what's happening. Margaret wanted to help. Thomas knew better. It's too risky, he said under his breath. But it was already too late. The noise had drawn them. The sky darkened. The air trembled. And then they came. Multiple shadows, larger, faster. The ground twisted beneath their feet. People started disappearing one by one. Screaming, begging, gone. Margaret grabbed Thomas's hand. We can't leave them. If we stay, we die. She hesitated. Just for a second. That second changed everything. One of the creatures turned toward them. Not just passing by. Looking directly at them. Margaret felt it again. That invasion of her mind. But stronger, deeper. It saw her fear. Her hesitation. Her need to protect others. And then something unexpected happened. It didn't erase her. It paused. Thomas saw it too. It's waiting, he said. Margaret stood still, heart pounding. Every instinct screamed at her to run. But she didn't. Instead, she stepped forward. The creature loomed over her, an impossible shape folding in on itself. She whispered, "We're not your enemy." Silence. The world seemed to hold its breath again. And then, the creature changed. Its form stabilized for a brief moment, almost like it was trying to understand her. Not her words, her intent. The other survivors ran, screamed, some vanished. But Margaret didn't move. Thomas stood beside her. Two people past their prime, standing in front of something beyond comprehension, not with weapons, not with strength, but with something else. Humanity. The creature withdrew, slowly. Then it disappeared. The others followed. The sky grew quiet again. Margaret collapsed, tears streaming down her face. Thomas let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. You did something, he said. No, she whispered. We did. From that moment, everything shifted. The aliens didn't vanish. The war didn't end. But Margaret and Thomas understood something no one else did. This wasn't a war of power. It was a test. And humanity's survival didn't depend on strength.